2015. To the members of the Athens Poetry Group, all poets, all friends. Friendship is a tree, and every friend is a branch. Absent friends are branches missing from my tree. Friendship is a river, and every friend is a creek that feeds the river. Friends who are separated are dry creeks, diminishing the waters that give life to the river. Friendship is poetry, and every friend is a poem. Friends who live far away are pages missing from the poetry book. Still, true friends who live beyond the mountains, beyond the rivers, beyond the plains are not really absent, just distant like the sun, glowing beyond the mountains, shimmering in the waters of nearby rivers, warming with their bright light the friend who is away yet very much present. You can climb the highest mountain and you will not see a grander sight excuse me, than the love of a friend who cares. You can write the greatest poem and you will not hear a sweeter sound than a friend who says, I care.
Wow.
Did we all get one? It's okay. No, I mean,
And he,
oh.
I got one from him. That's
He
okay.
sent them to me.
The shorter one is coming around to you now.
So we composed a community poem in response to.
yes, everybody gets
Everybody submit a line.
a word.
That might be fun. I got two.
He likes
Well, we
to get
could
ones.
each-
Have you been sending yours to
Yeah,
him?
I
on a-
send mine to him.
Keep him on the mailing list. He likes to read them. So.
Good, I am not. I'm getting them from all directions.
Thank you. Okay, this one is called, excuse me, as meaningful as a shared passion for poetry. Poetry is the song of the heart, the voice of our deepest feelings expressed as beautifully as words allow. Friends who share poetry also share unspoken secrets, bearing their souls in ways unfathomable with mere acquaintances. Friends united by poetry have touched the deepest recesses of each other's spirit. Thus, neither time nor distance can dilute the strength of their bonds.
Yeah.
I hope he gets over this soon.
It's slightly gushy here.
Well, let's say they're love letters.
Yeah.
He's a little homesick, isn't he?
That's what the homesickness.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think we should take to heart the fact that being part of this group meant a lot to Joe.
Yes, it did.
And to his wife too, because he was basically at loose ends, a very talented person who
He was
too
fun,
young
he
to
is
retire.
fun to be around.
Yeah, so I think these are very heartfelt.
Well, from his other report that he sent via email, it looks like they're digging right in.
Oh,
And
heavens, yes.
having lots of activities and memberships and so on.
But none of them are poetry activities.
Let's hope you can find his poetry room.
Oh, Austin's full of poetry.
Sure.
Well, where Naomi
Sure, it ought to be.
With the National Federation of State Poetry Societies, or whatever the name is, whenever they do their contests and such, the Texas Poetry Society just wipes out the whole rest of the country.
Well, it's because they're so big.
Well, I think they are enthusiastic poets and they work at what they're doing. And
There's also a lot of Democrats in Austin.
Yeah, in Austin, the only place.
God bless us.
It's like,
The only business is
Democrats don't like that. They like that the
We're gonna have to switch around.
Yeah, right.
Another chair coming
But he'll
up.
do his bit there.
Well, I'm gonna keep going since I started. Does everybody have one called Flying to Louisiana? It's one for Patricia, whatever you need.
That's nice of you.
Then maybe you can hand that to her.
Okay. Well, here, let's give her mine.
This is for Patricia.
I'm gonna sit over there.
I'll give her my copies of Joseph's.
Oh, that's.
Yeah, good.
I've got it, I've got extras.
Yeah, that's- but I can just put these.
She's flying over here.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
You're all
Well,
set. You're up to date.
Are you being protected from, or are we being protected by?
I think he's just having a good
I'm
time.
just
I think he's
enjoying
horsing
a
around.
different mask.
Before you got here, he hung.
Poetry is a mask.
Ah.
He doesn't wear one of those at home, does he?
I almost wore one of those.
Some days he's worse than others.
Joy has extras if you like one.
Next
I'm
time
not
I'll
giving them
bring-
away.
I'll bring the one I have from China. so
Yeah, I
you can
noticed
see what they
you
have.
say Joy has them. You don't say I have them. I'll give you. You don't say that. You're giving her stuff away.
Right. I can't get away with anything, can I?
Not to change the subject, but before Felix reads his poem,
Sure.
I ran across a few lines the other day of poetry that struck me as so powerful that I was eager to hold it in my memory.
Aw.
And this was Marianne, words from Marianne Moore, and I'm not sure where they came from, but the words are that the place was a painted garden, a painting with real toads. And I have fed on that for a couple of days.
Famous line.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. That's my
That's
sharing.
fantastic. Well, I'm going to take you from real poetry to a ditty. Something that, I have twin sisters who are 3 years my senior, and they're celebrating their 80th birthday in a month, and I'm going to go to Louisiana to their birthday party.
They're almost as old as you.
Hence. Yesterday I made airline reservations and began to think about flying. So here it is, flying to Louisiana. I want to be in Louisiana, but I'd rather slip on a banana than face the trial of getting there. What an odious thought to bear. It's not that I fear flying, nor do I unduly dread dying. I just abhor squeezing into a seat that's too tiny for me and my feet. I'd take a train if one ran near, but that's not possible, I hear. Driving is unsafe for a man my age, so against the airlines I must rage. Who said getting there was half the fun? Assign him unto a seat that's a middle one, a fat man to his left, a sick child to his right, and wickedly wish him a miserable flight.
That's very
You've been flying recently.
That's great.
It's so
Perfect.
It's just, I've flown a lot because my job was in international work, so I used to go around the world 2 or 3 times a year sometimes. And I like being in places, but I hate getting there. I'm sure, it's an agony.
You could drive to Chicago and take an Amtrak.
Well, that's a 6-hour drive. I might as well drive. It's a 10-hour drive to Louisiana. So.
That much better.
Oh, you could fly to Chicago. It's only an hour's flight.
Yeah.
And then take the Amtrak.
So,
Or you
that
could do
would
what
not
you're doing
improve
and complain
my
about it.
my temperament. I showed it to my little granddaughter Chloe, and she said, "Well, that was rather gloomy, Grandpa."
I thought you were gonna do something about security and checking bags.
And if you can go there, that's another whole.
That's
trip.
another.
You don't have to remove your shoes anymore, is that the truth?
Well, you get to put it back on.
Well, I think that too many of the examiners were just keeling over when people took off their shoes.
Too bad for them.
From the sublime to the ridiculous. That took us there. Are we going left or right? I don't know.
We'll go back to, I'm not sure if this is sublime, but we're going to go back a little bit away from the ridiculous.
Okay.
And as a preliminary comment, yeah, this is quite a lengthy one. Two things, well, a few things. First of all, I don't remember, a few weeks ago, somebody passed around or notified us about a poem called The Shirt. And so I loved it. I loved the concept of taking something and then going beyond it.
Deconstructing.
Yeah. And the other thing that, just as a little preliminary comment, I've come to understand, as many writers and artists have found out, that art is therapy. There should be 2 pages, front and back. If you don't, I have an extra one.
I have the house, I don't
Right,
know.
the front and back.
You know, she has the house in front.
She's missing the back.
Front and back.
Oh, this
One
one's front
page,
back.
2
Right,
sides.
thank you.
Okay, that's,
And so this is therapy. Art is therapy, and as Joe mentioned in his poem, we bring some of our most difficult issues to a poetry group. And this is a very difficult issue for me that I brought. About a year and a half ago, my mother died, and we sold the family after much difficulty and decided to sell the house. The house was our home ever since I can remember. It was my mother's house for her married life. So it was the homestead, and it was sold. And we found out that a few months ago that it was torn down. And this brought some difficult issues for me. And people say, oh, it's just a structure, it's just a building. But it really did bring into a lot of feelings. So I used this poem to go into that as kind of therapy. So this is the house. And love with no disgrace. Perhaps there is no origin, no home, at least for me. There was a house, yes, a structure in itself, solid and free of pain and sorrow, standing there on fertile land, constructed of wood and stone by a skillful hand, one who knew his trade, his means, his plan for walls and floors, he himself being a family man, who would create a place where kids could grow and feel the love and strength every child should know. But that's all gone now, the house that is. The site where it stood is now cleared of all there was, right down to the earth. Even some trees are gone, and what my brother sees as he drives by is nothing but a vacant lot, devoid of all that once existed, now a mere plot of land, something close to what was there before the house, and yet I wonder if I care. See, I got the call the other day. He said they tore it down, the house that is. And so, he sighs, we'll let the tears drown our sadness and grief, the loss of that symbol of our contented past, the one he says we all once knew and thought would last. I'm sorry, bro. Yeah, it's been demolished. So we must move on, have faith in God, and always trust that he knows best, as what has passed can never be again. Yep, the die is cast. And just as vacant as the lot, my mind is such, with nothing to feel and no one to touch, to reach out and grab with either anger or a laugh, expressions of emotions that might best be split in half, the sum of each, as one can see that the place of shame and fear has disappeared, and yet it can't erase the plague of empty hearts and driven minds, and with the fallen walls my memory unwinds. You see, from that house built with affection driven into every nail came at least one child cursed with the message, you must not fail. a child framed and forged to be something or someone he was not, damned to achieve the perfection of heaven or be pushed to hell to rot. The house, a structure of beauty, love, and tender glory, experienced sights and sounds inside that's told a different story. And now it cannot tell the tale to those who care to know of how its one and only family never had a chance to grow in compassion and love, sharing peace and understanding for each other. It never was, and now can never be anything more. So the house is gone, but its vacancy has survived. And of course it could not have resulted otherwise, as it has always been the source of emptiness for some of us who touched its walls and climbed its stairs, too often in a frustrated search for just one gentle parent who really cares to learn what is going on inside the heart of a child, wondering why he ended his day in sorrow, praying he would no longer have to cry. It's gone, all gone. Yet here I sit, knowing only that I can't go back any longer to that place, that building, which now has been sacked, taken as if by a crusading army eager to save its occupants by killing them all, sending them to their final heavenly reward, to a God willing to receive these wretched souls. Bulldozers that must have known the pain the structure's residents once knew, and would recall had it survived. The gain, they say, is in the loss. We've liberated you by destroying everything. Yet as much relief as I feel to see it go, I cannot ignore the sting of its demise. Yes, it was not the happy abode that some might wish to claim, but it was me, my origin, my house, a home that only I can name.
Wow. That's
Very heavy duty.
Yes.
Was this in a rural area?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Suburban rural, yeah. When I grew up, when I started there, it was all woods and forest and
Uh-huh.
through suburban
And
sprawl.
the property was acres or something rather
Yes.
than
Yeah,
just
it was
a
acreage, right?
a city lot? Yeah,
Correct.
Right.
I'm impressed by the way it flows, but it rhymes.
It took a lot.
Very
Yeah.
skillfully, yeah, no, you
It
can't.
does.
It took me a while to realize that you were doing couplets because it flowed so naturally. And you kind of lead us down a garden path. I thought it was going to be a happy. And then all
Oh,
of
we
a
all
sudden,
thought it was going to be happy.
So it's very moving. It's very powerful.
It was real therapy for me. It was very much therapy. And, it was one of those things that we all think, I mean, I know for me, I thought that my child was very happy and we all grew up and this was a great family. And then we looked back, my brother and sister and I looked back and said, there was some real crap that went on in this house. As I guess with many families, just a lot of crap goes on. But there was some tough times. As I mentioned, my father was in politics, and that really colored a lot of what was expected of us as kids. But anyway, I'm grateful to the group to allowing me to share this with you, because it not only took a while to write it, but it took a while for me to get up some gumption, you might say, to bring it to you all, and to leave the camera on. So
It's interesting to me because some time ago when I went on the House Quest or whatever on the computer, you put in the address in the street level.
Yeah.
And so I went on the street and see all the familiar houses from where I lived from age 6 to 20 or whatever. And all the houses are there, and then it comes to my house and it's bare, vacant lot. And so I wonder, because it was just a 40-foot city lot, and not only that, it was a rented house. It was never our house. We didn't have the wherewithal to buy a house. And so I don't know what factors there are, but I left it, I left Detroit, I left the city, I left it all behind, and I have no feeling for the building, the neighborhood, memories and stuff like that. So I was very interested in how you became so involved in the building.
yeah. I think one of the things, I knew the people who built, obviously, I knew the man who built the house.
Mhm.
He was, and I.
So that was a nice part of it.
The idea of the land was I was very attached to the land.
Right.
In fact, the land was probably more precious to me than the house in many ways, because as a kid, you know, this was where as kids, we played in the trees and explored the land, and the land was,
I live in the house that my dad was a surveyor, and he traded surveying for land. And when I was 5, we would go to this, we called it the lot, and we would work on this house every summer from about May till September until we ran out of money. And when I was almost 12, we moved into the house. And I actually helped mix the mortar and carry the bricks, and my initials are carved in the garage floor and the windowsills, which I got in trouble for. And when my dad passed away, I had left Lancaster. And you know, the last thing I ever thought I would do was be living in the house that I helped build and grew up in. And I wrote a poem about this house. So I'm in the house that my father used to call my brother and sister and I his little hod carriers. Because our family built this house. So I'll send you the poem.
great, thank you.
I'll
That I
send it to
wrote.
all of us.
Yeah, I'll send it to
If
you.
you will, yeah.
The house where I spent a lot of my childhood, when I was back in Mansfield, we went out that way, and I was really annoyed. They painted it blue. We always painted it with white cement and buttermilk. And they painted it blue. Maybe it was blue cement and buttermilk, but it had never been blue in all my lifetime.
It brought up some real deep memories for me too. I might
This
go
one
back
for you.
Yeah.
Well, if bulldozers can tear down a house, maybe words can tear down the wall we built around childhood.
I love that way of
That's a
expressing it, yes.
wonderful thought.
Yes.
But then there are those of us who have no attachment to houses because we moved so much. Until we got
Probably a good
here.
thing.
Until we got here. I mean, I can't even remember some of the houses that we lived in because there were too many of them. My father was a geologist and he just traversed around the country looking for oil. And so, you know, 2 years maybe in one place and then we'd move on. So,
I was struck in your poem about how double-edged the sword of parenting is. A parent probably thinks he or she is doing a good thing when they encourage their kid to succeed. We want you to be a doctor or a lawyer or get your PhD or something. And then, but the other side of that is the curse of saying you must not fail, and the pressure that puts on a kid. Of, my God, I've got to be something extraordinary to maintain the love of my parents. And very, very well said.
yes.
Yes.
Well, these is my usual lyric poetry. We'll start with fatal shooting over loud music. So now it's quiet at your house, as it is at ours. You no longer hear his music, we no longer hear his music, nor do we hear his laughter. We don't see him across the supper table. We don't have him with us on holidays. You no longer hear his music. We no longer hear him say, I love you guys. At your sentencing, you will not hear us recommending clemency.
What was the impetus for this?
I just heard part of a BBC account of some man who shot the neighbor kid because he wouldn't keep his music down.
My kids would have been gone early on. Boy, and all their friends.
With the first line, I thought you were talking about a power outage. Which we suffered for 6 hours.
Yes, well, I think, well, and I was at Kroger's and they were having a terrible time.
Yeah.
It went out here too.
That line, nor do we hear his laughter, is not supposed to be invented. The computer took it into its head to do that on its own. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. I offer you a scenario. A group of Americans born and raised walk down a Texas street with handguns strapped on and carrying assault rifles in position to be readily brought to bear. The patriots, wearing the stars and stripes ostentatiously displayed, sport signs reading, "We support the Second Amendment." They are all black.
Wow.
Can you imagine what would happen if, with the footnote, or Arkansas or Wyoming, Ohio, you name it. But can you imagine the way we see these white guys walking around carrying all these guns?
Mm-hmm.
They see a kid with a rifle. They think it's a rifle.
Handgun.
Yeah.
Handgun.
I'm reading came across an incident of a woman who was riding an escalator, and the person in front of her or next to her or something like that on the escalator was carrying a rifle. My God, she said, you know, and it's a situation where you're kind of fenced in, you know, there's no escape, and here you are with this guy bearing arms.
Well, and if you say anything to any of them, then they get really hostile. You know, the Second Amendment, you get beaten over the head with it, and I think it would have to be very brave men to do this, to have a black group go out like that. But they have as much right as anybody else.
Yeah.
Well, my reason for doing poetry was when my father was terminally ill. I wanted to write something. Ever since, I wanted to write something to family members to commemorate them before they are gone. So this is our son Brad, and he had a birthday on 6/8. But I haven't had a chance to present this to him personally, so I continue to revise. If you have a thought, always be open. Okay, your A to Z quality scene on your birthday this 6/8/2015. A, always considers both sides, left versus right, up versus down, smile versus frown. B, best gentleman, often. Best all-round man, you bet. C, calm, cool, collected, and reflected in deliberation. D, darn competitive, to be best, to the rest, or to pass a test. E, excels beyond the norm, beyond those who merely conform. F, frank and to the point, without pointing a pointing finger of accusation. G, grateful, respectful, personable, and sensible. H, hurried, but not harried to expedite a task before taking a rest. I, image is not your plot or plan, but to do the best you can. J, Jega man, doing whatever you can to be a good businessman. K, kind host with the most. L, looking out for friends and family in many ways on many days. M, multitasker, not a multi-basker. N, not a slacker, goal-bound, thoughtfully reflected, and to be self-directed. O, organized calendar, day, work, office, home, garage, car, and bar. And P, planner, in a very deliberate manner, down to the minute and second. If we have a time to meet, he tells us 2:43 and 30 seconds or something. Jeez. I don't know. He thinks he'll get me there on time, I think. Q, quick to be a communicator, who's never a bore. R, Rebecca is your wife, who partners with you for a good life. S, schedules vacation trips, work, and home chores every day in every way. T, traveler with old friends in a timed race to get together at your favorite place. U, usually casual, is your usual. V, very systematic learner of data you use to be an accomplished earner. W, works at home, works afar, on your phone and in your car. X, extra attention you give to detail makes your life smoothly sail. And Y, yes, answers you'll consider, but they don't come in a large litter. And Z, he travels through Xenia from Athens to get to Springboro, it's a suburb of Dayton, so that happens often. Xenia, you travel through, but wisely don't linger till the next tornado is due.
How much did Mary help you with this? Because it says observations of.
Yes. She looks at the end and said, change that word. So, not too much.
Sure. Animals are we. Animals are we in a humongous kingdom great. But we are special by the sounds we make. In the many languages that man do spake, and the laughing matters that are ne'er out of date. Little ones come to animals big or small, more or less spiritual they are they all. Mothers care in hospitals, in or out. Racehorses know what it's all about.
You've been watching Preakness or something?
No. But I'm thinking about, I thought about a lot of animals during the last few years, and the similarities between our behavior and the animals that we underestimate.
Yeah. There was a recent on NPR, they referred to a TED Talk about animals, about how animals have their own system of ethics that they really, about within their clan, within their group.
Yeah.
And so after watching this, I was realizing that when somebody calls me an animal, I take it as a compliment.
I think we all hesitate to take our animal character seriously.
Well, I was wondering about that the other day because there were a bunch of pictures and such on Facebook about interspecies friendships. You know, you've got you have a donkey that's a good friend with a duck, or these wild.
Or the dog nurses the cat.
Yeah, all this sort of thing. And I thought,
Yeah.
isn't that what you have when you've got a dog, when you have a cat, when you have a horse? That's interspecies love and affection. We just don't like to think of ourselves as a species.
We block out a lot of observations we have about animals, I think.
I have a complaint about pets. We spouses get supplanted by the pet. Who gets more petting? The pet. More attention, and that one sits in the lap.
Have you ever tried to sit in Mary's lap?
No.
Well, you
I never felt welcome. Or should.
This is Dragons and Beasties.
Speaking of animals.
Oh, my.
I've never been much a believer in dragons and other mythological creatures, preferring to see animals as non-miraculous mammals or reptiles. I like dogs and cats and birds and snakes. By like, I mean they are amusing or beautiful or even ugly enough to be cute. So what happened this morning was a fluke. When I saw my neighbor's farm pond was abloom with lotus flowers, I walked over to look more closely at the beautiful white blossoms. I waited out to gather one for closer inspection, knowing that I would finally know if the flowers were fragrant. The flower I selected and snipped off with my small knife opened as I brought it up closer to my face. In the center of the flower was an egg, translucent with showers of glittering, star-like pieces embedded as if the Milky Way was reflected on still water on a cold, windless night. Now I'm wondering what creature had laid an egg there. Slowly, as I watched, the surface of the egg started to bulge out in places. I picked the egg up and felt the movement quicken. A rip appeared along the top. A tiny claw enlarged the hole. Then I was staring into the eye of the creature. Turquoise green, a scattering of golden flecks, and a crescent-shaped pupil of inky black that had no bottom. Before, and I was stunned, more than a second or two had passed, the creature was standing in my hand. Then wings filled out along the side of its body, fragile looking, veined, and pebbled with minute gem-like bumps. This exotic creature rose up on its hind legs and stared at me. It examined me as if I were its specimen. The ageless eyes glimmered but showed no emotion. I'm thinking maybe I should take it home and study it. As I was ready to clasp it firmly between my hands, it said, "Boo!" and flew away. After that, I looked in some of the other lotus flowers, hoping or fearing another egg. There was nothing. How big would that thing get? What did it eat? Were there more? Do I?
Very cute.
Oh my gosh. It's Puff.
Joy's been on a strange diet, perhaps.
No. Liquid, I think.
No, unfortunately, no.
That's great.
Everybody has one. Okay, let's start with laps.
He who laps last laps best.
This is Mary's laps. No?
No.
Okay. The sloop was 26 feet, large enough to instill calm while anchored on a quiet night in smooth tropical waters, under a sky that was of the universe, wide, midnight blue as Carter ink, and stars in every direction. The air was enriched with a true, honest smell of salt air, water, and marine life blended. Could life in the world be any better than this? No work to be done, no discussions necessary, no involvement except for complete immersion in all the world. It felt the world was only the sky, the dark, still water, and the three of us being quiet, listening only to the slap of the water on the hull with barely perceptible rocking, keeping us all alone and secure. The night lasted forever, as long as the sky was wide, as anchoring as the watery world surrounding us, and as quiet as being alone from others, from the world, from the universe, and from life. Priests rejoice, the congregation may grow, bringing power and riches. population grows, more starve and infect one another without a promise of care. Unwanted children go not to school, but to the streets where life is short and brutal. But family planning is vilified and abortion is criminalized. The population grows, the intelligence of the mass shrinks, riches pile up in the castles of billionaires, planet Earth groans under busyness, clouds of overweening pollution, the pains of evisceration, and the blundering of its most meddling species.
That's real happy.
This is,
What might that species be?
yeah, what, some dragon, I imagine.
Mankind.
There was, I wrote this a few weeks back, I guess, and there was discussion at that time of how the population bomb was a lousy prediction, that, you know, his predictions really have not worked out. Well, really? So this is kind of a response to the notion that the population bomb didn't really occur. Something certainly has occurred, and, you know.
Well, it won't be a bomb.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the old adage of the frog in boiling water, you know? I mean, it's warm, this feels good, and the population, we're doing okay, but it won't explode, it will just boil, it'll just overpopulate on its...
And he still says, well,
He who?
his name is the author of The Population Bomb.
Paul somebody.
Ehrlich,
Okay.
yeah. So he still says that he's correct, you know, that this is the road to ruin, whatever.
Well, I think he's correct. I think also, I don't understand why the economists, who I think are a bunch of flat mouths anyhow, base our economy on new house building. Because in order to build a new house, you know, you look at Columbus, we used to go up there and it was farmland and now it's row after row of little boxes made of
Everybody's
ticky-tacky.
gotta be somewhere, Patricia.
Yeah,
More is
but-
better. If you don't
but
grow,
they
you
don't-
die. I remember talking to one of the big dairymen down in Gilchrist County in Florida when I was very active opposing dairies, and dairies were busy opposing me. But anyway, I talked to one of the more successful guys, and he was just, you know, saying, I've got to keep it growing. Because if you don't grow, you'll die, you know. So that means another 100 cows, another 100, another 1,000, and so on. And so that's the message of all business. If you don't grow, you die.
Yeah.
So how do we sustain an economy where everybody lives in a building that's already been built, you know? There's no, in this culture at any rate, there's no understanding of the possibilities.
Real fast for me.
The land from-
My email said I will be all ears, and that was deliberate, because after getting out of the hospital, all I did was either sleep or lay in bed 24 hours a day. I'm here, and I did come that 2 weeks ago for a couple of reasons. One, because I wanted to be with people and I wanted to do something that would, you know, help me. And I also wanted to tell Felix about, you know, my response to his poem about the foot tag. But I feel so much better, and my brain is going, maybe I can start working again. So hopefully our next time I will bring.
You're looking good.
Yeah, thank you.
Could it be an inverse relationship? As we pay to communicate, the real value is cheap. Preferring eyeball to eyeball, face to face, belly button to belly button is not cheap, but real. No matter your E-mode, is the emotion present, the body language, the look in the eyes, the expressions of the mouth, the tight or relaxed shoulders. What are your cheap thoughts?
The millennial dilemma here.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm sorry if you don't have a copy of the other one. It's called Sacred.
Do you have the one that says
I'll read
sacred?
on.
It's not in the
I-
reverse?
I can look on
Yeah.
with Tom if you want.
I
to read it
I
after.
can see it.
Sacred. The other day I found sacred lines within a book. That same day I found a sacred line across my brow. Reading the text several times allowed the words to sink beyond the surface. Touching my forehead and pondering, a nodding smile arose. Sometimes just living the mystery is enough.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Here's a copy if anybody
Thank
wants
you. You sort of changed your approach to writing.
I don't know what to say.
What kind of change?
Well, there's not as much imagery as you have used in the past.
Well, I kind of teeter-totter back and forth maybe.
Yeah.
I think the imagery and the trust is unwritten. I mean, in the sacred, I think there's imagery there, but
Yeah,
it's kind of
there's
left
certainly
up
more there.
to the individual.
But one of the parts of your poetry and Ruth's was the intense personality that came through to me from your writing.
Well, I'll write one like that next time.
So everybody can shiver here a little bit. This is a winter poem.
No humidity. I felt the breeze go by.
In winter. In winter I wake to deep white silence. I wonder if the deafness my brother lives in feels like this always. And does he feel cold along with the endless quiet? I adhere to the silence, shushing my way out of blankets, tiptoeing past the bedrooms and down the stairs. I pull on my boots, my puffy snowsuit and mittens, and soundlessly open the door. I see nothing but snow. It has erased the day before. Gentle white contours took charge and turned all the corners to curves. I squint at the dazzling light and step off the porch into the snow, up to my waist.
Wow.
The snow day brings kids out to play in the cornfield along the river. We skate on volunteer ice rinks from the melt of a sunny day. Cornstalks pierce the ice and trip us, and it takes a wizard to glide for one magic moment. I cross the railroad tracks with my brother and our sleds. All the kids except me climb to the top of the super steep hill. I stop in the middle, and even then, I drag my feet to slow the sled down, but I give it another try. When the quiet blue light of dusk appears, my brother and I end our task. The snowmen we built stand like sentries and will last for weeks on end, just needing a mend for a tattered hat or a cracked black button eye. I wish we could fix the things that really matter.
I like the line, I see nothing but snow that has erased the day before.
Yeah, I like that line.
That's a great part.
I think this demonstrates the power of words. I mean, we said it's just words, but I think that words are very powerful. And this creates, for me, I mean, we felt the breeze, right? You know, Joy says that, you know, you felt the breeze. I can feel the winter in this, the way you use the words, which is really nice. And I think we often have cheap thoughts. I think we forget sometimes that it's true, talk is cheap, and there's so much cheap language that goes out there when you realize that words, like you said, are really powerful.
It's all images too, you know, talk about images. It seems like I've been there through every Right, every line.
Yeah. One idea I had for a poem that I'm hoping will come together is on phrases and the two-edged meaning sword that they can be, and particularly being a chaplain. Why do we call it a visit to the hospital when a person is in the hospital?
Because we hope it's only temporary.
But while you're there. But thankfully we do, we're very fortunate that we do have good hospitals in this country.
I like the pictures of the feelings. I feel like I'm there. And I remember how it was.
I'm wondering.
This was for me, I have a lot of thinking and feeling about my brother who was deaf. And one of the biggest feelings that I had throughout my life, and I still have even though he's gone, is that sense of silence and his living there and me going in and out of it. And so that's kind of a lot of it for me.
I'm looking,
Was he born deaf, always deaf, or did he become deaf?
He
can send
became
this one
deaf
back at 6th Street.
at age 3. Yeah.
Do you find that you appreciate the silence more as an adult, or how do you feel about silence?
The silence that I am kind of trying to work out was a sense of his loneliness. And the difficulty of him being brought into the rest of the world and me going into his world and, all of that.
Did he share that with you? Did he share with you that he felt the loneliness?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did he sign or was he able to?
He learned to sign in graduate school.
Wow.
Yeah. So he was an extremely brilliant man who did a lot of work, but still there was that cold, lonely, silent place that he always lived in.
If I were your teacher, and I'm not, I would suggest that you take the last verse of your poem and start writing from there. Expand from that point, because I think that's the meatiest part of your poem.
Thanks. You'll probably hear more poems about. I have a lot of thoughts to think.
I look forward to your poem about you and your brother.
Thanks.
Okay. This is based morning chores on the farm. This picture happened yesterday. It wasn't at all what I was planning to do because I'd already written something else, but I couldn't get this picture out of my mind. So I thought it was telling me something, so I did this. Larks, oh, there's a visual. Yeah.
You guys didn't get to see it.
Wow.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Larkspur of white and purple stretched toward the sky. A wonderful awakening. Not to be outdone, the poppies lazily showed off their red, pink, and white splendor. The red-winged blackbirds were quite perturbed there was no food in the feeder, while the hummingbirds eagerly drank their sugar water. At the kitchen door, a bevy of cats lined up, hoping for treats before breakfast. Frambosia, the Lion King, succumbed to an application of advantage in exchange for a few bits of hot dog. On to the barn we trudged as more cats appeared to join the parade. But first clean up the mess, wash the aluminum dishes, fill them with kibbles. gather up the empty cans of soft tuna fed to Mo, who has no teeth.
Aw.
The sound of small kittens born a month ago raised hope that they might come out of hiding for some food. Not as long as a human stood in front of them. So I closed the door and peeked over, thinking of 9-year-old Katie's admonition. You have to come to them every morning, Grandma Man, so they can bond to you.
Aw.
All done by 8:15 a.m. in time to brew a pot of tea.
Aw. How many cats are there?
I don't even know. I mean, that's the truth. These five beautiful kittens, which we thought Mother had already been taken care of, obviously. So anyway,
Pass those pictures.
that was
Nan,
but we have
Patricia,
had
would you
the
pass the
most
picture?
Well, I don't know if
glorious
Nan wanted to
flowers
stop.
this spring.
She took a picture of that one.
Okay.
I didn't know if you wanted to do this one or not.
Oh, that's coming to the application of advantage. It
Oh,
can be
my
pretty
God.
if they can.
What
I
is
have some
advantage?
wounds from
The
that.
advantage is what you put right here,
Fleas.
fleas
Oh.
and everything.
Ah.
So I couldn't get the picture of the poppies to print. So they're also glorious.
Yeah.
Beautiful. It was impossible to print the poppies.
Peter Piper
Possible.
printed
Yeah,
copies.
I thought he was picking pickled peppers.
No, he picked poppies. That was another watch.
Beetle hired for picking
In both of your poems, I love, you know, and I've tried to do this, and sometimes I succeed in thinking of myself as an artist and using words like an artist would use a brush, you know. And I would rather almost read the words than look at the pictures. 'Cause and the picture, I painted myself.
Isn't that called painter poetry?
Now, these are from your
These.
I really,
So,
they do use the term painterly when describing poetry.
I love it.
You thought I was being
I thought you
smart.
were, Patricia.
This one's
Are there
extra.
enough?
Yes, here's one extra coming back.
Sometimes,
Got an extra.
sometimes there's nothing to be said. It's all been said, or soon will be. So enjoy the quiet of the refreshing lull. Sometimes 'tis wise just to bide, to just tread water and let go of doing, to soak up birdsong and the cool summer rain. Sometimes one can turn the ears down, let the mind relax, and the heart be full as it resides in peace.
Amen. And a little woman.
A woman.
Thank you.
That's just what I found on the boat.
Yep.
You found on the boat?
On the boat.
Oh, on the boat.
Paul, and-
We both wrote the same story, didn't we?
yes, you did,
Yeah.
same one.
I think it's interesting sometimes that there are similarities between the poems that are written.
It's great minds, you know.